Gather close, for I have a tale that will make your blood run cold, a story of terror that echoes through the darkened woods. Listen well, as I recount the legend of the haunting of Hollow Creek. In the heart of the forest, nestled among the ancient trees and winding streams, lies a secluded village known as Hollow Creek. Once a thriving community, it now lies abandoned, its streets empty and its buildings crumbling into ruin. But the villagers did not leave of their own accord, no. They fled in terror, driven away by a darkness that stalks the night. It is said that long ago, a witch cursed the land upon which Hollow Creek was built, cursing its inhabitants to suffer for all eternity. From that day forth, strange things began to happen in the village. Shadows danced in the moonlight, and eerie whispers filled the air, echoing through the empty streets like the wails of lost souls. The villagers tried to ignore the signs at first, but as the years passed, the haunting grew more and more unbearable. People reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the streets at night, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Others spoke of hearing the sound of children's laughter echoing from the depths of the forest, only to find no one there when they went to investigate. One by one, the villagers abandoned their homes, leaving behind their possessions and their memories in their haste to escape the darkness that had consumed their once peaceful village. But even now, long after they have gone, the spirits of Hollow Creek remain, trapped in a limbo between the world of the living and the dead. They say that on certain nights when the moon is full and the wind whispers through the trees, you can still hear the echoes of their cries, carried on the night air like a lament for all that was lost. And if you dare to venture into the heart of the forest, you may just catch a glimpse of the ghostly figures that haunt the ruins of Hollow Creek, forever trapped in a nightmare from which there is no awakening. So heed my warning, my friends, and stay far away from the cursed village of Hollow Creek. For once you enter its darkened streets, you may never find your way out again. Gather around, my friends, and prepare yourselves for a tale of terror that will send shivers down your spine. This is the legend of the phantom hitchhiker of Deadman's Curve. Deep in the heart of the countryside, there stretches a winding road known as Deadman's Curve. It twists and turns through dense forests and rugged terrain, a treacherous path that has claimed the lives of many unwary travelers over the years. But there is one story that stands out among the rest, a story of a ghostly hitchhiker who haunts the lonely stretch of road. It was a dark and stormy night when a young couple set out on a journey along Deadman's Curve. They were driving home from a late-night party, their laughter filling the car as they sped down the deserted road. But as they rounded a bend in the road, they were suddenly confronted by the figure of a young woman standing by the side of the road, her thumb outstretched in a silent plea for help. Feeling sorry for the poor soul out in the storm, they decided to stop and offer her a ride. The woman climbed into the back seat of the car, her presence sending a chill through the air. She was pale and silent, her eyes staring straight ahead with an unnerving intensity. As they drove on, the couple tried to engage the woman in conversation, but she remained strangely quiet, her gaze fixed on some unseen point in the distance. They began to feel uneasy, a sense of unease creeping over them like a shadow in the night. Suddenly, without warning, the woman spoke, her voice cold and hollow. She told them of a terrible accident that had occurred on Deadman's Curve many years ago, a crash that had claimed the lives of everyone involved. She spoke of how she had been a passenger in one of the cars, how she had died in the wreckage, and how her spirit had been condemned to wander the road for all eternity. The couple listened in horror as the woman recounted the details of the accident, her words sending chills down their spines. And then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a cold gust of wind and the echo of her chilling words. Terrified, the couple sped away from Deadman's Curve, their hearts pounding in their chests as they tried to put the encounter behind them. But to this day, the memory of the phantom hitchhiker haunts them, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the darkness of the night. So beware, my friends, if you ever find yourself driving along Deadman's Curve on a stormy night, for you never know when you might encounter the ghostly hitchhiker who haunts its lonely road. Gather around, my friends, And let me tell you a tale that will chill you to the bone. It's a story that has been whispered in hushed tones around campfires for generations, a story of fear and darkness that lurks within the heart of the forest. Long ago, in a forgotten time, there stood a dense and ancient forest known as the Whispering Woods. Legend had it that the trees in this forest were not like any other trees. They possessed a malevolent spirit that whispered secrets to those who dared to venture too deep into their tangled embrace. It was said that once you entered the Whispering Woods, you would become lost in its labyrinth of twisted branches and winding paths, forever trapped in a realm of perpetual twilight. Many brave souls had ventured into the forest, drawn by the promise of untold riches or the thrill of adventure, but none had ever returned to tell the tale. One fateful night, a group of travelers stumbled upon the edge of the Whispering Woods. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, they decided to venture into the forest in search of treasure rumored to lie deep within its depths. Armed with torches and swords, they plunged into the darkness, their laughter echoing through the still night air. As they delved deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers grasping for prey. The air grew thick with the smell of rot and decay, and strange shadows danced at the edge of their vision. Suddenly they heard it, the faintest whispering, like the rustling of leaves on a breeze. At first, they dismissed it as nothing more than the wind, but as they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling their minds with doubt and fear. One by one, the travelers began to disappear, swallowed up by the darkness without a trace. Panic set in as they realized they were hopelessly lost, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. In the end, only one of them remained, a lone survivor haunted by the memory of what lurked within the Whispering Woods. They say that on certain nights, when the moon is full and the wind whispers through the trees, you can still hear the echoes of their screams, carried on the night air like a warning to all who dare to tread where they did. So heed my words, my friends, and beware the Whispering Woods, for once you enter, you may never find your way out again. Gather close, my friends, and listen closely to the tale of the lighthouse keeper's lament, a story that will send shivers down your spine and haunt your dreams for nights to come. Long ago, on a remote and desolate island shrouded in mist, there stood a solitary lighthouse perched upon the rugged cliffs overlooking the stormy sea. The lighthouse keeper, an old man named Thomas, had spent his entire life tending to the beacon, guiding ships safely through the treacherous waters that surrounded the island. Thomas was a solitary figure, his only companions the crashing waves and the cries of the seabirds that circled overhead. But as the years passed, he began to sense a presence on the island, a presence that lurked in the shadows and whispered secrets in the dead of night. It started with strange noises echoing through the empty halls of the lighthouse, footsteps that echoed up the winding staircase and vanished into thin air. Thomas dismissed them at first, chalking them up to the creaks and groans of an old building battered by the elements. But then the whispers began, soft and insistent, filling his mind with doubt and fear. They spoke of ancient curses and forgotten sins, of lost souls trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. Thomas tried to ignore them, to focus on his duties as the lighthouse keeper, but they followed him wherever he went, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of the light. One stormy night, as the wind howled and the waves crashed against the rocks below, Thomas saw something in the darkness that chilled him to the bone. A figure stood at the edge of the cliff, its form shrouded in mist and shadow. It beckoned to him with a skeletal hand, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Terrified, Thomas fled into the safety of the lighthouse, bolting the door behind him and praying for morning to come. But when the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the figure was gone, leaving behind nothing but a lingering sense of dread. From that day forth, Thomas lived in constant fear, haunted by the memory of the ghostly figure that had appeared on the cliff. He tried to leave the island, to escape the darkness that threatened to consume him, but the whispers followed him wherever he went, driving him to the brink of madness. And then, one fateful night, as a storm raged outside and the waves pounded against the cliffs, Thomas climbed to the top of the lighthouse one final time. With tears in his eyes and a heavy heart, he flung open the door and stepped out into the howling wind, disappearing into the darkness below. They say that on stormy nights, when the wind whips through the empty halls of the lighthouse and the waves crash against the rocks, you can still hear the echoes of Thomas's cries, carried on the night air like a warning to all who dare to venture too close to the edge of the sea. So heed my words, my friends, and beware the lighthouse keeper's lament, for once you hear its siren song, there may be no escape from the darkness that awaits.